When new Starbucks creamer meets your morning coffee, your favorite Starbucks flavors come to life. Smooth, bold, creamy. Inspired by the Starbucks caramel macchiato you love. Mornings just got better. This changes everything. New Starbucks creamer, now at home.
Coming up tonight on Weather Underground, wind, waves, rain lashing the northeast coast tonight. The worst just ahead. We're going to break down the strongest coastal impacts of this October nor'easter and when things will get better. Our first named winter storm of the season is bringing winter whiplash to parts of the country, from 83 in Denver yesterday to the low 20s today, and snow to go with it. We'll tell you who will be measuring the snow in feet and not inches. And the warm side of Aubrey sparking strong to severe storms over the southern plains right now. We'll give you a look at where thunder will roar into the night. And 1 year since the most powerful hurricane to ever strike the Florida Panhandle. How communities are making their way back after historic Hurricane Michael. Well, welcome into our special extended edition of Weather Underground tonight. We have two major weather systems affecting millions from coast to coast, and we have live team coverage to cover it all for you. Meteorologist Mike Bettis and hurricane expert Dr. Rick Knapp are here to break down our first major nor'easter of the season. And meteorologist Chris Warren, the Weather Channel's Justin Michaels, they're live covering our first named winter storm of the season. That's Winter Storm Aubrey. But first, we want to get to the breaking news in the state of California, where wildfires are spreading fast across the southern part of the state. You're looking at live pictures out of Calamasa, California. Here you can see an aerial look at this community. We've been told these are mobile homes, mobile home development or neighborhood where several of the homes are on fire. And, you know, looking at this, you can see at least what appear to be 4 homes on fire there. Then you expand the view and you see more, some smoldering, some have already been burned. You're looking at, the shell of one, the one next to it to the left on fire, the one above that, again, just about completely burned. Unfortunately, we have been looking at an extreme risk of wildfires today because of the strong winds. And unfortunately, that has come to fruition here in Calamasa. With these fires burning over these homes and so many homes that aren't on fire nearby, the concern is that some of these embers that could blow around could ignite other buildings. As you can see, this chopper zooms out, maybe 10 to 20 homes that look like have already been burned, some completely. There's that extreme fire danger I was telling you about, areas around and north of Los Angeles because of our Santa Ana winds that have set up. So we've got warming, dry winds that are moving very quickly through some of these areas, especially gusty north of Los Angeles. And unfortunately, here in the community of Calamasa, we are seeing the result of that. On the East Coast, really in the Northeast and New England, we're watching our nor'easter, where it's a whole different story. We've got rain, we've got coastal impacts, and we've got wind. Mike Bettis is out there in Chatham, Massachusetts. Mike, these communities, no stranger to the worst of what these nor'easters can bring.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the wind tonight is really slicing through you tonight. Winds gusting over 30 miles an hour currently, and winds have gusted as high as today at 60 miles an hour out on Nantucket, 40 here at the Cape, although I suspect that some of the gusts could be higher overnight tonight, as we're really going to, I think, maximize the next 12 to 18 hours. The pressure gradient between the high pressure up in the Canadian Maritimes and the low pressure, that is the actual nor'easter itself, down to our south by a couple of hundred miles. I mean, it's a raw night. There's no question about that, with a little bit of light rain and the winds that are hitting us now. Right now, we've got coastal flood warnings in effect, high wind warnings in effect, and we think that beach erosion and power outages are going to be the biggest impacts from this nor'easter that doesn't bring any snow, and it's not going to bring any snow as temperatures will remain in the 50s. What it will bring is very uncomfortable weather at Gillette Stadium tonight for Thursday night football, Giants at Patriots. Now, earlier today, our Stephanie Abrams got a chance to talk with Mike Girardi from the NFL Network, how he thinks weather could impact the game tonight.
I think there's no question it'll impact the players, and I think the big thing is not the rain, but it's the wind and how that can affect the passing game, Steph. And both teams like to throw the ball. The Patriots have probably the best thrower of their football in NFL history, and Tom Brady, and the rookie Daniel Jones for the Giants has been very impressive in his few starts here. So that is one of those things that you'll have to watch. Brady has some history of playing in this. For Jones, this will be something new, and you'll have to wonder how that'll affect him tonight.
We'll see what happens when they kick off about 20 minutes from now. As far as forecast goes for the game, temperature should remain in the 50s. A very windy evening tonight, we think, at Gillette Stadium, where it'll be 10 to 15 mile per hour winds with gusts higher than that. That certainly could have an effect on the passing and the kicking game. Let's bring in our Dr. Rick Knapp, talk a little bit more about this nor'easter, because Dr. Knapp, I don't know if you have a chance to look at any of the recent observations, but we got our pressure down below 1,000 millibars, I believe, and so maybe in some sense it's maybe even slightly overachieving. At least, do you think it's bottomed out as far as its intensity, and will that now correspond to a higher wind through the night, or what do you think could play out here as far as the winds go?
Well, the pressure isn't really bottoming out tremendously, so I don't think there's going to be a seriously noticeable increase in the winds. We've already got the pattern established, and the coastal low is not moving very much. And the main thing, as you mentioned earlier, Mike, is that pressure gradient between the low here, some 200 miles southeast of New England, and that high over eastern Canada. That's what is going to remain in place for the next day and a half or so. So you're going to have that low sit and spin there, and then there's that pressure gradient. So this is the problem zone, and it's not just creating winds on land there, especially in southeastern New England. It has this very long fetch over water where the wind is blowing over hundreds of miles of ocean for hours and hours and hours at a time, and at a pretty good clip. And so that's pushing the ocean ashore, causing down of those winds. So that's why we've got these high wind warnings up here for the Cape and the islands. Could get wind gusts to 60 miles an hour, could have some power outages, maybe some downed trees, and difficult driving for those high-profile vehicles, and the wind advisories up and down the coast, especially along the immediate coast, not extending very far inland. Tomorrow morning, this low hasn't moved hardly at all. By this time tomorrow night, still hasn't moved hardly at all. And it'll be into Saturday before it starts to move eastward and will be weakening in the process. So Saturday will be the transition day from bad weather to good along the coast. Now, we do have 2 to 2.5 foot water rises above normally dry ground in the coastal areas from southeastern New England down along the coast of New Jersey and Delaware. So it's because of that, with the push of the water and the additional waves, we've got some coastal flood warnings, including for Nantucket and including for the coastal areas of New Jersey and Delaware. So, Alex, this is a situation which people can easily stay out of trouble if they stay away from the flooded roads along the coast, and they don't do anything that's dangerous during a power outage, like run those generators too close to the windows or indoors.
And I know we're kind of getting back into it with nor'easter, so just really think about what you're doing before you do it. We look at a place like Boston, by the way, where we've got Thursday night football happening not too far in Foxborough, 59 degrees with winds 24 miles an hour. We'll be watching for some showers there at the game. Again, not necessarily weather that New England fans are not used to, but may not be the most hospitable of conditions for anybody. Right now, we do have rain showers taking a break, though, around and south of Boston. So for a good portion of this, you don't have the showers. A lot of those confined to the Cape and then down onto Long Island, portions of south central Connecticut as well. We have plenty of storm reports coming in of downed trees and power lines here in Essex, trees and wires down on Lanes Road. In Harwich, we've got trees and wires down blocking the road there. So this is a gusty wind event that is
Out the winter, it could be bad for springtime, but we have to get through this weekend with the snow, and it's the wind and the drifting snow that's going to be huge. In fact, you see this right here. This is some drifted snow. There's a hill off, and the plowed road looks pretty good, and there's a little bit of grass. What I want to do is see if there's even a curb here. I'm going to kick my way through. This is slush and snow, and most of this has blown in. So there's a little bit of a lip here. So now I'm on the grass. And this is on the downwind side of just a small little rise. And you can dig down and see we have, what, 3 or 4 inches of a drift. So, you know, yeah, maybe 3 or 4 inches. And if only 2 inches of snow have come down, and this is just one spot, it can give you a general idea that if you see what 2 inches can essentially double in a drift, what happens if there's 1.5 feet to 2 feet? There's certain things you just can't predict. The snow isn't going to fall and settle. There's going to be spots that are going to be just bare grass in some of the fields, and there could be huge drifts in other places. This is far from over. We have to get all the way through, at least halfway through Saturday, possibly ground blizzard still going Saturday, with the snow possible still on Sunday. Let's now check in at the cold side of things in Denver with Justin Michaels.
As people started this Thursday here in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, they started it with snow. And in fact, this first snowstorm out the gate, Winter Storm Aubrey, well, it brought a lot of accidents, more than 240 accidents around the greater Denver area. And that's pretty normal, the police tell us here in Denver, for the first snowstorm. People having to get their legs ready and get their cars ready for driving in this kind of weather. Of course, winter weather's no fun to drive in, and they certainly saw that this morning. The good thing is there were no deaths associated with any accidents this morning. But take a look at some video from earlier today. As people were starting their days here, walking around, the snow was coming down at a good clip. Believe it or not, 2 to 4 inches fell in the city of Denver, which is really more than they were expecting. In fact, the original forecasting was for about 1 to 2 inches. Here, right outside the Colorado State Capitol, we do have about 4 inches of snow. Now, how does this all fall in the history books? Well, believe it or not, this is kind of average for when the snow does start here in Denver. That's typically around October 18th. Here we are a little couple days before that, but still on average. The earliest start to the snow here in Denver, back in 1961, September 3rd. Thankfully, we didn't have a good snowstorm back in September of 2019. It's certainly coming in around average, but the bigger story here in Denver, and this is something people are really having to deal with, is not the snow. It's the cold temperatures people are going to be experiencing and that drastic temperature swing. If we look at yesterday, Wednesday, when it was a high of 83, tomorrow morning as people are heading out the door and kids are standing at the bus stop, it's going to be in the mid-teens, maybe 15 degrees. That's a 68-degree temperature swing in about 48 hours. Certainly no fun for anyone. The good news is going into the weekend, it's going to be in the 60s and 70s, especially Sunday for the Broncos to play at home, about 70 degrees. In Denver, Colorado, Justin Michaels, the Weather Channel.
And that 70 by Sunday will be quite a change, but that's Denver weather for you, right? Snowfall to come, going to be seeing the highest totals there in the northern part of South Dakota and especially throughout North Dakota. Around Devil's Lake, that's where we think we could be seeing 1.5 feet to 2 feet of snow, perhaps some isolated totals in the 2 to 3 feet range. All because of our deepening surface low. This is also going to amp up the wind, so they'll stay strong as we head into the evening, the overnight, and through the day on Friday. You can see that snow filling in around Bismarck, more of those deeper blues, that shading indicative of the heavier snow. So things are going to be tough around Bismarck there on I-94 in terms of visibility because of the falling snow. Then you add the wind too, and it just makes it even worse. As we go out there this evening, expect those winds gusting over 30 miles an hour in Bismarck. Same for Rapid City, Fargo gusting around 30 miles an hour, Sioux Falls in the mid 30 mile per hour range. Even Minneapolis gusts tomorrow into that 30 mile per hour range. By Saturday, still some persistent snow showers across northern Minnesota, parts of North and South Dakota, but the winds will also stay a bit gusty as we head into the early morning hours and even the afternoon of your Saturday. As far as the forecast for Bismarck goes, this is a look at it. We've got wind, we've got snow, and when the snow stops falling, we think by mid to late morning tomorrow, we'll keep the wind. So visibilities are still going to be rough out there on the roads because of the snow blowing around. Temperatures will make it up into the mid 30s tomorrow afternoon. Bismarck, we think another I would say 3 to 5 inches coming your way. Head up towards the north and east. Much more still on tap. We'll be back.
As a struggling actor, I need all the breaks I can get. Line.
Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That's a lot of words. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Alexa, tell me about Neptune's Sorrow by Olivia Watson.
It's a masterstroke of heartache, brutality, and redemption.
The mist crept into the pivot hole beside her. David, what did you think of the book?
It's a masterstroke of heartache, brutality.
The trees behind me here blowing pretty good in the wind, that's for sure. And that's a concern for locals here that are obviously worried about trees that could come down, power lines that could come down, and the possibility of some outages. Earlier today out here on the Cape, we had several hundred customers that were without power. That has since been restored, but we could have an ongoing issue for at least the next 24 hours until those winds finally start to back off a little bit as the low itself weakens some, pushes off, and we don't have as much of a gradient between this low and the high pressure up in the Canadian Maritimes, which is really responsible for the winds that we're dealing with right now. Now, earlier today when we had high tide, and we're going toward high tide, we'll have it at just after 11 o'clock tonight. This morning around 11 o'clock at high tide, I mean, the waves were really up. The water was up all the way to the sea oats at one point, up over some of the piers. The boats were rocking. The wind's strong enough that some of the umbrellas, the canopies, stuff like that are vulnerable to that, and they'll rip in these kind of conditions. So I would advise you, if you've got still some lawn furniture outside in your yard, bring those inside so that they don't suffer a similar fate. Now, as we go through the night tonight, most of the heavy rain will likely be concentrated farther south. Yeah, the islands could still get some. Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard still could deal with some heavy rain, but some of the heaviest stuff has moved down toward Long Island this evening. It's just a light rain right now with the heavy wind, but for a place like Chatham, we're still going to be contending with off and on rain tonight, but winds that'll be gusting likely up to 40 miles an hour, maybe at times over 40 miles an hour, and that coincides, that long fetch in that northeast wind, as that coincides with the high tide tonight after 11 o'clock, and tomorrow about 11:30 in the morning we'll have issues at the beaches with the possibility of coastal flooding and some beach erosion as well. Let's bring in our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knapp, talk a little bit more about this. Dr. Knapp, we got some images even from New Jersey today where we had some tidal flooding that happened there, but it won't be confined to New England. Even though we're stationed here, it'll go down the coast. Jersey Shore, Delmarva, Virginia Beach could have some issues when it comes to flooding, so this has got some wings to it.
Yeah, it's a large tropical storm strength system, and because of its large size and that big gradient between the low and the high over Canada, it's pushing the ocean over a large area, and that's storm surge. I mean, we're getting reports all the way from Delaware up through southeastern New England of 2 to 2.5 feet above normally dry ground at the coast. And as we head into high tide, that's only going to get worse, and it's going to be a problem into tomorrow and tomorrow night, and not ending until Saturday. So, Mike, you're right. This is a large system affecting hundreds of miles of coastline.
You know, the thing about it too is, Dr. Knapp, there are, several areas along this coastline here that have sandbars. That becomes an issue for, people that want to be out on their boats once the weather improves, that the sandbars can be rearranged, so inlets and outlets that people would normally take won't be there. We were just talking to the emergency manager. He's saying that the harbor master will have to go out there, the Coast Guard will have to go out there, and they'll have to mark new channels. Yeah, because of the duration of the event, the same east-facing shorelines are going to be getting hammered, and the longer that the shoreline gets pounded by the rough surf and that persistent single direction flow, the worse the effect for beach erosion, the sandbars are going to get. So yeah, you don't get out on the boats until you've been cleared by local authorities that it's safe to do so in that area. Yeah, we're hoping that will improve by Saturday. We think tomorrow could be another rough day, and they may, Alex, still, Dr. Knapp, thank you. Alex, it's questionable whether or not they're going to run the ferry service to the islands, Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, tomorrow. They didn't do it today for safety reasons. The weather's just too rough and the seas are too rough right now.
Yeah, understandably so, and I think a lot of people would get that, wouldn't want to find themselves on a boat. All right, Mike, go dry off for a moment. We're going to get you caught up on some severe weather right now, moving through the Fort Worth area. Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex getting in on some severe storms capable of producing some large hail. In fact, getting reports of teacup-sized hail, 3-inch diameter hail coming out of these storms. Plenty of lightning along with these storms as well. You can see the warnings just on the west and northwest side of Dallas. So we're looking at Fort Worth and communities northwest of Dallas. We've We've got Fort Worth, the north side, where we're likely seeing some of that large hail. Parker and Tarrant counties remain under a warning until 7:45 local time. Travel along I-20 going to be a problem, and 35 north as you head between Fort Worth and some of those northern suburbs. Be prepared for the potential for some large hail. I wouldn't travel at this point. If you know somebody out there, let them know what's headed their way. We got a lot more to come, including some check-ins on our snowy towns coming up.
To present the flavor we've all been waiting for, the hazelnut spread M&M spokes candy. Oh my. What did you do?
We ate him.
Breathe. Every breath makes you feel closer to nature, and every sip makes nature feel closer to you. Michelob Ultra Pure Gold. Beer in its organic form.
Fact is, every insurance company hopes you drive safely. But Allstate actually helps you drive safely with DriveWise. It lets you know when you go too fast and brake too hard. With feedback to help you drive safer, giving you the power to actually lower your cost. Unfortunately, you can't do anything about that. Now that you know the truth, are you in good hands?
We're programmed to always do more, to go faster, to work harder, to hustle, hustle, hustle. At Nectar, we believe in the unhustle. That's why we've made the world's most comfortable mattress, sold at a great price with a 365-night trial and delivered right to you. So take a nap. Hit snooze. The hustle can wait. Nectar, the best sleep of your life guaranteed. Go to nectarsleep.com today.
I knew about the tremors, but when I started seeing things, I didn't know what was happening, so I kept it in.
He started believing things that weren't true. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't say a word.
During the course of their disease, around 50% of people with Parkinson's may experience hallucinations or delusions. But now, doctors are prescribing Nuplazid, the only FDA-approved medicine proven to significantly reduce hallucinations and delusions related to Parkinson's. Don't take Nuplazid if you are allergic to its ingredients. Nuplazid can increase the risk of death in elderly people with dementia-related psychosis and is not for treating symptoms unrelated to Parkinson's disease. Nuplazid can cause changes in heart rhythm and should not be taken if you have certain abnormal heart rhythms or take other drugs that are known to cause changes in heart rhythm. Tell your doctor about any changes in medicines you're taking. The most common side effects are swelling of the arms and legs and confusion.
We spoke up, and it made all the difference.
Ask your Parkinson's specialist about Nuplazid.
We've got another incoming storm on the way, which looks to break up another beautiful fall day.
You'll always be prepared with everything from cargo tech and cargo liners to floor liners and seat protectors, plus the cup phone to secure your phone. Because you never know when it's going to be a WeatherTech day. Order yours today at weathertech.com.
What does help for heart failure look like? It looks like Jill heading off on an adventure. Jill has Entresto, a heart failure medicine that helps her heart so she can keep on doing what she loves. In the largest heart failure study ever, Entresto was proven superior at helping people stay alive and out of the hospital. It helps improve your heart's ability to pump blood to the body. Don't take Entresto if pregnant. It can cause harm or death to an unborn baby. Don't take Entresto with an ACE inhibitor or aliskiren, or if you've had angioedema with an ACE or ARB. The most serious side effects are angioedema, low blood pressure, kidney problems, or high blood potassium.
The beat goes on.
Ask your doctor about Entresto for heart failure.
Where to next?
Entrust your heart to Entresto.
The beat goes on.
Introducing Target Circle, a more rewarding Target run. With deals and surprises, it's free to join. You'll score more and help support your community. You're invited to Target Circle. A more rewarding Target run is waiting for you.
Take a look at this. We got some huge swells off the coast of Rhode Island. You're looking at Narragansett. You're looking out over the Atlantic. It's angry. As Mike said, some of the ferries have been canceled and not running. Understandably so. You do not want to find yourself out on the water in conditions like this. Coastal erosion, coastal flooding an issue. And then, of course, we've got the wind and rain for those areas, especially along the coast, but even as you make your way closer to a place like Boston. I have some new video into us. That was the town of that was Narragansett. This is the town of Rye, I should say. Another look at some of the big waves coming in onto the Northeast and New England coastlines. New England really feeling the fury from this one, and we're not done. We're going to keep winds going tonight and into tomorrow. Thanks for staying with us here for our special extended live coverage. I'm meteorologist Alex Wilson, joined in studio tonight by our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. We're going to be checking in with him in just a moment, but right now I want to get a look at what it's like there on the ground in Chatham, Massachusetts. As Mike said, kind of in the elbow of Massachusetts. Things really have upped the ante, I would say, over the last hour. Would you say those winds are going up, or are you just colder and wetter now?
Oh, no. Yes, to all those things. Yeah, the winds have really intensified here in the last hour, Alex. I say there are times, you even have a little trouble having your footing out here. The winds are picked up and the rains come back as well, so it was a very raw night out here in the elbow of the Cape. We're out in Chatham, where the winds are gusting over 30. I imagine with the next observation we get, winds probably in the past hour gust over 40 miles an hour, which they're currently doing out at Nantucket as well. Boston, wind gusts currently at 36 miles an hour, and they really aren't backing off much. It's going to stay up like this. It's going to stay elevated winds through the night tonight. So we were just talking to some folks that are having some dinner tonight at the Chatham Bars Inn, saying, yep, our lawn furniture has just been going this way and that way and this way and that way. So I would certainly advise you, if you've got some lawn furniture out there this evening, you have an opportunity to get out there and grab it, maybe throw it in the garage. It'll survive, hopefully, and it won't become a projectile and become dangerous or end up somewhere where you can't find it tomorrow morning. But coastal flood warnings remain in effect here, and that'll certainly be an issue at high tide, which will happen just after 11 o'clock tonight and around 11:30 tomorrow morning, and likely even then the tide cycle that comes in tomorrow evening as well. So could be, I say, 3 more high tide cycles. I'll be worried about some coastal flooding. High wind warning remains in effect. Gale warning remains in effect. Storm warning remains in effect. So a lot of issues for the Cape, the South Shore, and the islands, not to mention all the way down through the Delmarva, where some minor coastal flooding to moderate coastal flooding could be anticipated. All right, early season nor'easter. We'll see if it sets a table for a snowstorm nor'easter later in the season. We're already dealing with the snow in the Dakotas right now. Our first winter storm of the season. It's Aubrey. Meteorologist Chris Warren is there. Chris, the Dakotas certainly are no stranger to snow. We know that for sure, but that first one, no matter where you live, and no matter how used to the snow you are, that first one always kind of gets that muscle memory, back. We all finally remember how to drive in it again.
And Mike, this might be just, a notch above that too. Yes, you absolutely need to get the rust off your winter skills, especially with just how gorgeous of a day it was the day before yesterday on Tuesday, when it was, 70 degrees and the leaves are changing color, yellow and orange in the trees. Absolutely gorgeous now. It's blowing at 20 to 30 miles an hour and feels like it's 17 degrees, even though the temperature's right around the freezing mark. But this not necessarily going to be just another storm because of the amount of snow. It's one thing to get a blizzard with a few inches, and that's all it takes. Just enough snow to blow around and make whiteout conditions. There could be a couple of feet of snow in some areas here in North Dakota. And I want to take a look right now. This is Highway 2 that goes across the state. We're one county away from Canada, so we're the northern part of North Dakota. This will take you to Montana eventually that way, or into Minnesota that way. And let's take a look here just at the pattern of this. I don't know if you've done any skiing or snowboarding, been up around 9,000 or 10,000 feet, but this is kind of what some of the wind-driven snow looks like when you see that it has been going for hours. I mean, the wind has been gusting at 30 miles an hour consistently throughout the day, even up to 43 miles an hour early this afternoon. And since yesterday at 5, the sustained winds have been around 20 miles an hour consistently. See these different patterns then you dig down and you get a little bit of slush and ice. And this is a construction zone. This is the highway right here that's slushy. And you look at these conditions with some of these big rigs that are going by, and this is only with a couple of inches of snow. The drifting snow makes it seem like a lot more, and boy, tomorrow things are going to start cranking when that blizzard warning goes into effect. We'll talk about that coming up at the top of the hour.
This week only, large 2-topping pizzas at Domino's are only $5.99 each when you carry out.
We have some new video coming in to us of the fires right now burning in Southern California. You can see that thick black smoke from a fire that started when a truck dumped a sparked a fire by a roadside, apparently. So we know vehicles can start these fires as well. Local media reporting at least 150 acres were burned. Some structures have been destroyed. You can see on that upper right-hand side of the screen, plenty, unfortunately, of homes in this neighborhood on fire. Getting some reports that it is a mobile home community, a neighborhood with mobile homes where many of those, unfortunately, at this point have burned. They have evacuated a middle school in the area because of the fire burning as those strong winds continue. This this was a part of the California that we were especially concerned about because of the strong winds. You get a fire that starts and it very quickly is spreading as those winds pick up those embers and move them and start fires where we didn't have them. And unfortunately, here we are looking at basically the shells of once what were somebody's home or business or some other structure as these fires continue to burn. Here's a closer look, and you can see, even get a sense of the winds there. We look far away and you get a look at that huge plume of smoke. We did have some reports, I want to say 80 to 90, I think it said, mobile homes in that park were affected by this. So unfortunately, we are unfortunately seeing our fears come to fruition here across California. Fire danger today, extreme around and north of Los Angeles. So these are the areas that we've been most concerned about, and these are the areas where now fires have started and are spreading. Elevated risk all the way into, say, the Phoenix, Arizona area. So we've got a pretty good expanse of the west that we are keeping a close eye on, and there again, a look at some of our views coming in out of this fire in parts of Southern California, where we are getting reports of tens of homes that have been burned. Wind gust forecast, you can see those winds around basically north and west of Los Angeles. They are going to stay especially strong, gusting 45 to 55 miles an hour as we head through the remainder of this evening, overnight, and even into tomorrow. By later on Friday, relaxing a bit, but really they don't go down until later on Saturday. So please be aware, cognizant of what you've got, what you're doing. There's a look, by the way, at where Calamasa is. So this is actually east of Los Angeles, but most certainly in our elevated risk zone for today. Well, we've also got new video that reminds us how treacherous roads can be when we've got snow. This is Colorado. Courtesy of Winter Storm Aubrey, the traffic was slowed to a crawl in places as some drivers were spinning out on the newly slick roadways. It's that first snow of the season that oftentimes gives drivers such a hard time. Public Safety Department officials are telling us that some of the roads proved icy due to that combination of cold and snow. We had a flash freeze. When you got those temperatures dropping like what we saw, and in Denver alone, there were more than 200 collisions this morning that slowed the morning rush to a complete crawl. Big problems, unfortunately, because of the snow. We think the snow is especially going to pile up into portions of the Dakotas and also north central, northwestern Nebraska, a little bit of Wyoming. That's where we've got the winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings, winter storm watches in play. Blizzard warning, though, up into that northeast corner of the state of North Dakota, including Devil's Lake, where our own Chris Warren is reporting on this storm from. We've seen the snow really begin to fill in and amp up around Bismarck, North Dakota. You see some of those deeper shades of blue, and that's indicative of that snow coming down at a heavier clip. Grand Forks is at 32, Minneapolis, though, 59. So you also get a sense of where that cold air is spilling in and the areas that remain on the warm side of this system. Back into Bismarck, I would expect travel along I-94 to be problematic, to say the least, if not impossible. This is a fine, easy to blow snow. We saw some video earlier out of Rapid City, South Dakota. So in Bismarck, the snow's falling. What is falling is blowing around in the winds. What has already fallen is blowing around in the winds. If you can stay off the roads tonight, tomorrow, I would do that. Stay where you are, stay comfortable, stay safe. You don't want to find yourself stranded out there on the roads. We look at the overnight and into tomorrow, and you can see it is the Dakotas that will bear the brunt of the snow, particularly the eastern half of North Dakota, with that snow really coming down in earnest tomorrow afternoon through about dinner time. So early to mid-afternoon there in a place like Devil's Lake. Plows have already gotten a workout in the Dakotas here in Rapid City, South Dakota. Crews have been clearing roads of falling snow, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. You can see the snow that's falling, blowing around, the snow that's on the ground, blowing around, and it's just downright cold in many of these locations. So the winds are going to make the job of clearing the roads even more challenging, and that's why I say If you can, just stay off the roads, stay off of them. Winds making the temperatures feel colder, so what it says on the thermometer, not what it's going to feel like out there. 35 to 40 mile per hour winds in Bismarck and Rapid City as we finish off the evening. Now tomorrow, look at those winds really ramping up in that northeastern part of the state of North Dakota. We could see winds gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour and reach those blizzard criteria. That's why we've got that blizzard warning in effect. Even into Saturday lunchtime, winds staying gusty, 35 to 40 mile per hour winds in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and Bismarck, North Dakota. Finally, by late Saturday, they begin to relax a bit, but look at the cold by tomorrow morning. Each and every one of these blue dots represents a location that could see a record low. And our live coverage of Winter Storm Aubrey continues. Meteorologist Chris Warren, maybe your ears were burning. That's the only thing that's going to be burning, though, because you've got cold and likely blizzard conditions coming.
Yeah, it's going to be nasty tomorrow for sure as the blizzard warning goes into effect. It's going to be round 2 that's going to last into Saturday at the least.
It's chicken and waffles basket time at DQ.
Chicken strips,
Belgian waffles,
syrup,
fries,
savory,
sweet.
My lady,
My man.
Your daughter.
Oh, I love our daughter.
DQ, happy tastes good.
Create your dream home with the experts at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 40% on select hardwoods or up to 29% on waterproof floors, plus special financing. These are the floors homes are built on. Only at Lumber Liquidators.
The Lexus ES. Every curve, every innovation, every feeling. A product of mastery.
Lease the 2019 ES350 for $379 a month for 36 months.
Experience amazing at your Lexus dealer.
Wow, that's Ensure Max Protein with high protein and 1 gram sugar.
It's a sit-up, banana, bend at the waist. I'm trying.
Keep it up. You'll get there. Whoa!
30 grams of protein and 1 gram of sugar. Ensure Max Protein.
I know people love the dish remote. It's great. So why build in the Google Assistant? I mean, who really needs a TV remote that can turn the thermostat up
video for you from our storm tracker Charles Peak, who has been out there in Oklahoma, and we've seen accidents because of water on the roadway. So we know what snow's done, and unfortunately on the warm side of this as well, you get storms bringing heavy rain, and here a vehicle hydroplaned ran off the roads. Some injuries. I think Charles said nothing severe, but this is near Shawnee, and Charles Peak again providing this video. That truck completely destroyed. Strong storms, heavy rain moving through parts of the central U.S., including storms that could bring you teacup-sized hail in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area right now. Well, as we've noted all week, October has some of our scariest hurricanes on record, and that includes last year's Hurricane Michael. This time, 1 year ago, this was the scene in Panama City Beach, Florida, and among the panhandle, or all along, I should say, the panhandle. Now, it's estimated that Michael brought water levels over 20 feet high near Mexico Beach. This is just some of the damage that Michael left. Beaches eroded, homes smashed to nothing, and boats toppled at marinas. In some areas, Dr. Nab, like Mexico Beach, homes completely washed away. All that's left was the slab.
Yeah, when you see nothing left but the foundation, that is a hallmark of storm surge. We saw that kind of thing on the Mississippi coast in Katrina, just entire community wiped out. And that's what a major hurricane can do, and this one was no ordinary major hurricane, Category 5, and it kept getting stronger than forecast. There was a lot of wind shear affecting it, but it kept defying the odds and intensified all the way through the Gulf of Mexico up until it made landfall there. But of course, it wasn't just a point on the map. Panama City hit hard, points farther east. And now this graphic, based on the Hurricane Center's data, shows that it was Cat 4 all the way into Georgia. It wasn't that strong, but it entered Georgia as a Cat 2 hurricane, and it was really strong wind-wise all the way up through central Georgia.
I actually just drove through this Albany to Camilla just the other day, and trees completely, I mean, we're talking about pecan groves, essentially lines and lines of pecan trees completely taken out. Yeah, so not just a coastal event, one of the strongest hurricanes ever to hit the Florida Panhandle and the U.S. And like you mentioned, Alex, tremendous agricultural losses, more than $3 billion, and the farmers are still recovering. Yeah, it's been a tough go. I mean, we're only a year out, and there's been a lot to get done. Joining us now, the mayor of Panama City, Greg Brudnicki. Thanks for being with us. Let's start back last year as Michael struck. We know Panama City was hit very hard. Were you surprised with the strength and the damage from this hurricane?
Yes, no doubt, because, I've lived here for 55 years, and so I've never seen anything anywhere nearly as destructive as this. And we really couldn't tell. I mean, there was a tremendous amount of damage, but until you pick the debris up, you really don't know how much, and so we started piling it up, and we picked up 36 years worth of debris in 6 months. What we normally pick up in a year, we picked up 36 years worth. We picked up 3.6 million cubic yards of debris. In Irma, over 50 counties, they only had 2.3 million cubic yards. So we had 1.5 times as much as they had in 50 counties of Irma. So you can imagine, and you got trees that are over 100 years old just blown around like missiles, and the damage was absolutely devastating. 70% of our homes were damaged in the city, and a lot of these are not right on the coast. Okay, so it was like a 40-mile wide tornado that blew through, and we had some places where it was over 200 miles an hour that was registered, where it blew the things right off the wall. So Mexico Beach caught absolutely pure hell, and so did Tyndall Air Force Base, and the city of Panama City took a real licking. Yeah, Mayor, you talked about how many structures were damaged. 45,000 structures damaged in Bay County, 1,500 of them destroyed. How has the community bounced back? Where would you say the recovery is right now relative to where you thought it would be after the storm had just hit? I think we're ahead of the game. I know that everybody has, when storms, they say it's 8 to 10 years. I'm going for 3 to 5. It's been 1 year, and I'd say we're close to probably between 40 and 50% restored. Now, we have not pushed code enforcement yet because we want to give people a year to be able to deal with their insurance companies and out of town and multi-generational title and all those things. But we're going to start now doing that. So I can see us. I'd love to get back together 1 year from now and let you know where we are. We are way further ahead than I thought we would be at this time. But next year, I think it's going to be really enlightening. I think we'll be better than we ever were.
And you're using some unique approaches like 3D technology to build some of the needed housing.
Yeah, we're entertaining any and all different methods that have been exposed to us. We're starting to get some housing money in now, and so we will. The governor was here today. We just had a function not 30 minutes ago where they are giving us $2.8 million to put in a spine road that gives us the ability for the private sector to go in and build 800 apartments, which are going to help our Air Force Base as well as our city. And it takes so long to get reimbursed from HUD. This is a way that kind of an innovative way, out of the box way that the state could come in immediately and put some money into something, because that has to be done before this complex can be built. We've probably got, I think we had 2,800 out of our 4,200 apartments were destroyed within the city, and we've probably got about a third of those online right now, and I see many of those being back on within the next 6 months.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing in the recovery. Just 1 year later, a lot's been done.
You're a big deal to us, so we've got big deals for you. It's the Big
of wildfires here, an extreme fire threat, and especially Southern California today. Fires began when a sanitation truck dumped a load of smoldering trash in the streets. Didn't want the truck to catch fire, so the fire spread to a home by a vegetation. Now, mandatory evacuation south of 7th Street in Calamasa, east of County Line Road. 500 acres right now with 0% containment. We'll have more on this in just a moment. For now, though, let's get to the nor'easter that's crippling the eastern seaboard right now. We've had several flight delays, cancellations, and also a lot of ferry service suspended for good measure. Imagine trying to get to Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket in a situation like this.
I wouldn't want to be on that ride.
I wouldn't want to be on that ride either. I don't even get seasickness, but man.
You would on that one.
Would.
I, on the other hand, get seasick just looking at a bathtub. So I definitely would not be on that ferry going towards Nantucket tonight. There is a huge coastal storm that is building. It is growing right off the coast. I'd like to say it's moving, but it's not really. You see that blow up of clouds here as we have the radar and satellite composite for you all put together. That is the center of our area of low pressure, and it is not moving. It's not really going to be moving over the next day or two. Because of that, over the next 24 hours or so, you've got this long fetch of wind moving over the water, wrapping around our storm and pointed right at the coast. So the impacts are going to be fairly substantial, even as it's a close shave for the eastern seaboard. We're not looking at widespread torrential rain, although there will be some rain for sure near the coastal communities. I think the bigger impacts are going to be in the form of wind, and the wind moves the water, so the water impacts. We'll talk about that a bit coming up. But that low is stalling out and intensifying, so it's sitting in one spot, but it's still getting stronger and stronger and stronger as it does so. And if it were just the low, it would be one thing, but there's this big blocking high off to its north, as has been the story for just about every storm this year. This storm is slowing down because of that big blocking feature to its north. And the squeeze play between the two, where you have the clockwise flow around the high and the counterclockwise flow around the low, and that intensifying pressure gradient, those are all lines of equal pressure, that's what creates the wind. The more difference in pressure in a smaller area of space, the more the wind there will be. So really gusty conditions and rough surf pointed at the coast. And yes, there will be at least some rain to contend with. Let's talk about the wind impacts first, though. We've got gale warnings and high wind warnings that are up from Rehoboth Beach all the way up through Portland, Maine, a little bit further north from there as well. The worst of it, as Chris mentioned, will be near Nantucket Island as well as the Cape. Let's face it, they stick out a little bit further into the ocean, closer to that area of low pressure and closer to that squeeze play between the high to the north and the building low. As for the rain, I think there will be some bands that come through at times. It won't necessarily be raining on all of the Northeast corridor the whole time, all the way through Friday, even into early Saturday, but there will be these kind of bursts of rain. And so because of that, we're talking about rain in the forecast. We got to paint it in green, right? It's not going to be the whole time, but it will indeed be there through much of the day tomorrow, lasting into Friday night, tapering off Saturday, Chris, with continued bursts of rain and gusty winds as well.
Well, now let's get a first-hand look at what folks are dealing with as an intensifying nor'easter slams cities along much of coastal Northeast. Our Mike Bettis is live in Chatham, Massachusetts, where wind gusts there are up to 30+ miles per hour so far. Mike, describe the conditions this evening and how things have maybe changed from this morning, or maybe they've been the same persistent that whole amount of time.
Well, it's been rainy and windy all day, Chris. No question about that. But the most intense winds are happening in just the last few hours. We've certainly noticed how they've intensified here. And this is going to last through the night. So if you are anticipating conditions to get better once you went to bed tonight, you woke up tomorrow morning, it won't happen that way, unfortunately. And we think now that we've just gotten, and Mark, I think, really laid out the perfect explanation of it all. Such a long fetch of northeast winds that at every high tide cycle, we're going to deal with some coastal flooding. Minor to moderate coastal flooding on all the east-facing shores along the Cape, South Shore, the east-facing shores of the islands, especially Nantucket. So please watch for that. The high tide cycles tonight, which happens just after 11 here at Chatham, then about 11:30 tomorrow morning, and then we'll do it again late tomorrow night. So I think at least 3 more high tide cycles, we're going to have issues with coastal flooding, and we've seen issues with high water already in some places. But now, with the winds maybe even intensifying tonight a little bit, we're going to watch for more power outages. We had about 600 residents without power earlier today. Those have been restored already out here on the Cape, but that could be an ongoing issue tonight. You can see that the trees still have leaves on them tonight, and so they've got a bigger canopy to catch that air. and the next thing you know, they could be uprooted, especially if you've got wet ground, or you get tree branches that are going to break. You could have some power outages that are ongoing through the night tonight. So if you've got a generator, a lot of people here have whole house generators that are automatic. Those are fantastic. But if you've got a portable generator, just make sure if you're using one that you're using it properly, outside only, away 15 feet away from